Hopewell Chin'ono was vir meer as 'n maand in die tronk. Die Zimbabwese joernalis is daarvan aangekla dat hy openbare geweld wou aanhits nadat hy berig het oor beweerde COVID-19 bedrog. Hy gesels nou met my via Skype uit Harare. Hopewell, what kind of story lands you in jail in Zimbabwe these days?
Well, I was thrown into jail for exposing corruption. The arrest was ordered from the president's office, but what they did when I go to court, they said that they'd actually arrested me for inciting violence, but they were using tweets which they'd taken from my Twitter account, and there was nowhere where I talked about violence. But it is the old Zimbabwean story, which we have seen for the past 20 years, where critics and people who are perceived to be adversaries of the ZANU-PF government are treated with violence, are treated with disrespect, and the law is used as an instrument to shut you down.
Hopewell, do you expect a fair trial when you eventually go back to court?
It's difficult to say, because if you look at the bail application that I did, I was denied bail 3 times. And yet the state up to now is saying that it doesn't have the evidence that is required in a court of law for them to get a conviction. So the chances of getting a fair trial are very slim, but I only hope for the best.
Hopewell, so South Africa sent 2 delegations to Zimbabwe recently, one from government, the other from the ANC, expressing apparently to ZANU-PF its concern, but unwilling to use the word crisis about what's happening in Zimbabwe. Do you, as a civilian, as a journalist, expect that South Africa can play any role whatsoever to resolve this crisis?
South Africa has the ability to resolve the crisis because it has the economic muscle. It's about political will, whether President Cyril Ramaphosa or the ANC are willing to use that political will to make sure that the Zimbabwean government, the Emmerson Mnangagwa government, does the right thing. We have seen it before in the 70s with Vorster and Ian Smith. There was a point where Vorster decided that he had to show some tough love, and South Africa has been failing to do this since 2000. So Zimbabweans are hoping that this time around, since the ANC delegation is now talking tough, maybe it's just that moment where South Africa is going to do the right thing. If South Africa fails to do the right thing, it will also be affected by the problems in Zimbabwe, because Zimbabweans, when they fail to find jobs in Zimbabwe, they will flood into South Africa through the border or through the Limpopo River. But regardless, they will be in South Africa.
When you say, Hopewell, South Africa must do the right thing, what do you suggest? Do you think that we should consider, that the government should consider sanctions? What do you have in mind?
Sanctions between so-called sister political parties are never going to happen. But what South Africa could do is to give a set of restrictions to say that if you don't allow your constitution to prevail, if you don't comply with your constitution, we will not be able to help you in the way that we are helping you economically. If South Africa decided to shut the border, Zimbabwe will be in serious trouble. Everything, literally from toothpick to toilet paper, is coming from South Africa. So South Africa is a huge economic leverage over Zimbabwe. The biggest trading partner for Zimbabwe is South Africa. And yet the money that is being looted from Zimbabwe is being taken to South Africa to buy mansions and expensive cars. South Africa could put an end to that if they really wanted to.
Hopewell, while the elite is still doing well for itself in Zimbabwe, civilians are suffering. What is daily life like these days in Harare?
Daily life in Harare is very difficult. It's tough. For the past 3 months, Zimbabwean government hospitals have not been working. Over 95% of Zimbabwean citizens get their health care from government hospitals. I was explaining to a friend this afternoon that the biggest Zimbabwean hospital, or the biggest hospital in Harare, is called the Harare Hospital. It has only 2 maternity theaters, They were built in 1977 by the colonial government. Only one of them is working. Women are dying every day giving birth in Zimbabwe. To give you an understanding, to make you understand how serious the problem is, over 2,500 women are dying every year in Zimbabwe. That's 15 jumbo jets that are crashing, killing Zimbabwean women every year. In any other country, it would have been seen as a crisis. There will be outrage, but not in Zimbabwe, because we've become a country that has normalized the abnormal.
Hopewell, but your president says you are on the verge of economic normalization, and it's just some bad apples in Zimbabwe, people like yourself, I presume, who are spoiling it for ZANU-PF. What is government's reaction when people protest? We know what happened to you, but if I'm an activist or I rock up in the city centre of Harare with a placard saying this is unacceptable, what's likely to happen to me?
You will be thrown into prison. Just last week, there were students who protested, and they were thrown into prison. And the irony is that our constitution allows protests against government as long as they are not violent. And all these protests have not been violent, but still people are being thrown into prison. You see, we have a good constitution, but the government does not comply with the constitution, and part of the judiciary has been captured by the ruling elites in ZANU-PF. So even if you go to court, you won't get the justice that you would expect to get in a court of law.
Hopewell, is the army still loyal to the Mnangagwa government?
Yes, I would say that the army is still loyal to the Mnangagwa government. I'm not so sure how loyal they are to Mnangagwa, the men, but they are still very loyal to Mnangagwa, the government, because what we have in Zimbabwe is a situation where we got our independence through a liberation struggle. And that liberation struggle was led by ZANU-PF. And so the people that are running the army are also part of ZANU-PF. So there's a confliction of the state, the political party, and the military.
Hopewell Chin'ono, thank you so much.